Hi guys! I have no film to review for this week, so thought why not do a film tag? No one has particularly tagged me in this, but wanted to do it anyway. So this is the I like films tag. I thought this was the appropriate tag to do, as I do like films, so really I'm fully equipped here. I'm occasionally looking that way instead of at the camera. It's because I'm just reading questions and responses and things like that. So yeah, let's get started. Question number 1, favourite movie of all time. I'm not going to get off to a good start because I can't really answer this question. It's kind of like asking me to pick my favourite child. I don't think it's that extreme, but my favourite movie will change from minute to minute depending on what mood I'm in, what I've just seen, what I fancy watching, what sort of genre I'm in the mood for. Like, it changes so drastically and so quickly. I actually think if someone put a gun to my head and asked me to think of one, I don't think I could. Like, I couldn't name a single movie right now that was my favourite movie. So yeah, not a great start, but that's the answer to question 1. Question number 2, favourite scene from that movie. I can't really answer that with that film in mind because it's quite difficult. However, I do remember when watching the Desolation of Smaug or Smaug? Smaug. I'm going to go Smaug. Desolation of Smaug. When it sort of came to like the Virgin TV bits, I'd already seen it in cinema. I was watching it again, and we were watching it as a family, and my sister had gone off to do something, so we had to pause it. But instead of pausing it, we just re-watched the barrel scene again and again and again, just me and my dad. That's what we did. I think we watched it about 7 times in a row, and I remember we both were like, "This scene's amazing," just because it's so cool. So if anyone's seen that film, they'll know what I mean by the barrel scene, as in like the bit where like Legolas is jumping across the moor and they're fighting the orcs. I just think it's such a cool scene. I do really love that scene. But I wouldn't say Desolation of Smaug is my favourite film of all time. Favourite Hobbit film out of the 3 of them, but not my favourite film, so I don't know if that really answers that question. But question number 3 is favourite actors and actresses. Actors, to come to no surprise, is Benedict Cumberbatch, Martin Freeman, Tom Hardy, James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Gary Oldman, Alan Rickman, Ian McKellen, Ralph Fiennes, Michael Gambon, Stellan Skarsgård, don't think I've pronounced that correctly, sorry if I haven't, Mark Ruffalo, Tom Hiddleston and Tom Hanks. I think all of those actors are phenomenal. If I know they're in a film, I am more likely to go and watch it because that's kind of my bias. I just think that if I know that I like one of the actors in a film, I know at least that whatever's being portrayed is going to be portrayed well, so I'm more inclined to go and see it. There you go. Favourite actresses, a little bit less, but it's Dame Maggie Smith, who is phenomenal, Emma Thompson, Meryl Streep, who I agree with the joke made on Modern Family, whereas like you could cast Meryl Streep as Batman and it would still be the correct casting choice because it's Meryl Streep. She is phenomenal. Julie Walters and Helena Bonham Carter, who I also think is a phenomenal actress. Question 4, most annoying actor or actress. Again, I have more actors than actresses for this, but most annoying actors I find are people like Ben Stiller, Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, and Owen Wilson. I don't tend to enjoy films they're in because I don't find their sort of comedy funny. So when I'm watching those films, I'm just more inclined to cringe or get quite embarrassed, and actually I'm not laughing, and so I don't really enjoy them. Most of the time I don't enjoy films they're in, and if they're in a film and I know it's going to be a comedy, unless there's something to balance it out, I probably won't watch it just because I have this assumption that I'm not going to enjoy it, rightly or wrongly so. For actresses, there's only one, and that's Vanessa Hudgens. I don't know why I find her annoying. I just kind of always have, even from like first High School Musical. I've always found her quite irritating. I'm not really sure why. It's kind of a very irrational irritation, and I actually have nothing against her as a person or the actors as people. I'm sure I don't know them, but when they've seen bits of interviews and stuff they've been on because they've been watching that particular show, they don't seem like horrible, irritating people. Something about watching her in films makes me quite, I don't know, I just don't enjoy it. I just find her quite irritating as an actress. Question number 5, best director. I don't tend to watch films for specific directors. I'm a lot less inclined to go and see a film because a director I recognise is directing it. I'm not as biased that way, though it's more sort of the way the trailer itself is, like what the trailer shows for the film, so the direction style used, not necessarily the director's name. However, a couple of, when I was trying to sort of work out actual names of directors that I like from films that I've films I enjoy that they've done. I'd actually come up with quite a few. So I love Edgar Wright, especially for the Cornetto trilogy. I also really liked what he did with Scott Pilgrim, but the Cornetto trilogy is up there in my ultimate sort of film list. I love all three of them, which are Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz and The World's End, and I just think he did a really good job of both directing them and editing them. I love how they're shot. I realised actually Steven Chbosky, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm sorry if I'm getting all these names wrong. Not just for his direction, actually. Every film that I've seen that he has worked on as part of either directing, writing, producing, things like that, I've enjoyed. And so I put him down the list. I haven't actually watched a lot of his stuff, but the stuff that I have seen, I've enjoyed. And the same with the next director, which is David Fincher. Again, I haven't seen many of his films, but the films I have seen, again, I've really enjoyed. Like, I love Seven, Zodiac, I thought Gone Girl was brilliant, I thought Social Network was really cleverly made, and I liked Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I thought they were all really good films. So there you go. I liked the style he carried out throughout them. But also, after watching Mad Max, I want to see more of George Miller's work, because I thought that was fantastically directed and shot, and things I've heard about the way he did it really intrigued me. So I would love to see more of his films, just to see what he's done. There's so many questions. I'm sorry this is a really long video. Just put it out there, there's loads of questions. I might end up cutting some out of. The full list of questions I'll leave below, but I might not show them all in the video, because I imagine this can be really, really long. I might, who knows. Let's see what I'm doing. Anyway, number 6, a favourite guilty pleasure film. Assuming that's kind of the guilty pleasure sort of genre, is kind of things that make you happy despite actually not being that good of a film, in the sense of like either acting or direction, the way it's shot. It's not very artsy. It's not going to be Oscar worthy, and it's not a massive blockbuster. It's the other sort of type of film. The sort of the filler films, those kind of films. So the ones that really stood out to me that I really enjoyed, I love Miss Congeniality with Sandra Bullock and Michael Caine. I love She's the Man with Amanda Bynes and Channing Tatum. I love The Perfect Man with Hilary Duff and Heather Locklear. Easy A with Emma Stone and Amanda Bynes again. Princess Diaries with Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews. And finally, Pitch Perfect with Anna Kendrick and Rebel Wilson. I think those 6 films, those 6 films are the 6 films I can put on and I will feel happy when watching them. I just really enjoy them. I can quote most of them because I've seen them so much. I just think they're really sort of happy films. There's nothing specifically spectacular about them in any other way apart from the fact that just how I feel they're like really feel-good films. Maybe it's going to be so long because I'm just answering the question in so much detail. Sorry about this. Right. Favourite tearjerkers. There's quite a few on this bit because I cry a lot of films, but my favourite ones, like all of the films that I'm basically listing, I think they're the films I've cried the most at, like ridiculous amount of tears. So we have The Fault in Our Stars, obviously, with Shailene Woodley and Ansel Elgort. We have Moulin Rouge. Love that film. Anyone that knows me will know how much I love that film, but I cry so much when watching that film. The Impossible, Ewan McGregor and Naomi Watts. The Imitation Game, to no one's surprise. I cried so much when watching that at the cinema, it was actually quite embarrassing. Toy Story 3, because the end of childhood and just, sad film. If I Stay, which I thought was a phenomenal film, absolutely fantastic, and I cried loads at that. And then, kind of just dropping on at the end, random sort of weird Christmas film I don't think many people have seen, but Annabelle's Wish. Don't know if anyone's ever seen that film. It is a Christmas film, so if you are thinking of wanting to give it a go, do it in December, because it is so obviously a Christmas film. And it's really cheesy and corny and quite a bad film, but every time I watch it, I really cry, and I actually really enjoy it. It reminds me a lot of just like Christmas Eve when I was younger and things like that, because me, my mum, and my sister always used to watch it around Christmas time, and then last Christmas Eve we decided to get it and watch it again, and I think that's going to become a tradition because it's actually it's a film we all enjoy watching, but oh my god, the amount I cry watching that film is ridiculous. So, number 8, I can count, character from a movie that scared you the most. This is also quite hard for me because when watching things like horror films, I don't tend to get scared by specific characters or like names that I really remember. It's more just the concept of characters. So it's a good example I can give of this is actually the masked character from Scream actually kind of freaks me out a lot. I think it might be linked to the fact that I have a phobia of the telephone, so that might be linked. But none of the actual like the characters that are behind the Scream masks actually scares me. Like it wasn't them that I was remembering or thinking about when I got freaked out. It's just the white mask and the calling on the telephone thing, and it freaked me out. So that's one. But if I had to think of like a character just that kind of made me feel uneasy or unnerved me when watching it, it's probably John Doe from the film Seven, played by Kevin Spacey, just because of what he does and how calm and collected he is about it. There's something about it that's just really disturbing. Fantastic film though. Movie you love but everybody hates. I don't know, the two that come to mind, I don't actually know if they're films that everybody hates. However, they are two films that I can think of that I absolutely adore, and I've never met somebody who likes them as much as I like them. Like, everyone's either been like, oh, they were alright, I'll stick them on, or they don't like enjoy them, or they've never seen them, or they genuinely don't like them. So they're the films I come up with, but who knows, maybe other people love them, but I'm assuming that these films aren't very universally liked. But the two that come to mind are they're both animated films. One is the Warner Brothers Thumbelina animated film, and the other one is The Quest for Camelot. Both of those films I love so much. My sister can actually tell you about my worrying obsession with Thumbelina, and I literally know like all the songs and everything, and it's the same with Quest for Camelot. I just think they're both amazing. I actually have both the soundtracks for both of those films on my iPod because I love them. And so yeah, I'm gonna go well forward with those two films because I don't think they're films that people particularly like, and I have a worrying obsession about them. And then question number 10 is movie you hate but everyone loves. First film that came to mind straight away with this is The American Hustle, because it's been the closest I've been in the cinema to actually getting up and walking out, because I absolutely hated it. I found it so boring and dull, and I genuinely hated that film. And I remember when me and my sister left, we both had a discussion about how bad we thought the script was, because we were like, they've got such a phenomenal cast, they have 5 amazing lead actors leading this, and it was terrible. So we just were like, oh, the script was awful, I hated it. And then it got nominated for an Oscar for Best Script. That's probably the best example I've got for a film that I hate that everyone loved, because I would never watch that film again, and just worst film probably I've ever seen. But obviously did really well, so I'm obviously wrong there. But other films I can think of are, I think both the films Titanic and Avatar are severely overrated. Avatar a little bit less, because I feel like what it did it brought on a whole new level for cinema. It was like the first proper 3D film, and so I can understand what it did sort of graphics and CGI wise, but the actual story I just think is quite dull and overrated, and I think when actually watching it on TV I don't find it that enjoyable, but in the cinema I remember loving when I was watching it. So I think it's a very cinema type film. But especially Titanic, I feel like that's a really overrated film and exceedingly dull. I really struggle, especially with the first 2 hours of that film. I really don't enjoy it. And then the end I always struggle with as well, because I always just think it's so, like, I understand the actual life event is tragic and horrible, and I'm not trying to take away with that, but the actual end between Jack and Rose I just think is so implausible and ridiculous. And then the bit at the very end where I'm trying not to give away spoilers, but if you don't know the ending by now, so like when she throws away the diamond, I think is ridiculous. The plank of wood is so obviously big enough for the two of them. I know so many people have said this, but I watch it and I can't understand why he dies, because he could have fit on that plank, or they could have taken it in turns. So I don't understand it. So I'm not trying to take away anything from the actual event that happened in real life, but the actual film itself I really struggle with. So it's probably up there as also a film that I'm not very keen on, that other people seem to be really obsessed with. Question 11. Favourite movie duo? Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Nice simple one. Favourite animated movie is question number 12. Right, I'm going to not include any Disney or Pixar films on this list, because I think I've talked about them enough so far on this channel quite recently. So I'll just list other favourite animated films I have. So it's a little bit different. Obviously Thumbelina and The Quest for Camelot are on this list, so putting them aside as well. You've got the first Shrek film, because it's so nostalgic and just such a good film. Hoodwinked, Anastasia, which is mostly what you associate as a Disney film. That's mistakes made quite a lot, but it's not. Flushed Away, which I think is a fantastic film. Despicable Me, and El Dorado, which I think is so funny. So yeah, those films basically. But I love most animated films I watch. There's not many that I actually dislike, so it's quite hard for me to have a favourite animated film. I think I have a problem when it comes to animated films. I just love them all. Question number 13 is actor and actress's crush. Again, these lists aren't going to come as any surprise to anyone, and I've probably missed people off the list, so sorry, but I'm just going to make this quick as possible. Actor, again, no surprises: Benedict Cumberbatch, Tom Hiddleston, James McAvoy, Daniel Radcliffe, which most people do not agree with me on, but he was like my first crush and has remained basically the whole way up as I've grown up. So yeah, there you go. Dylan O'Brien and Jared Padalecki, I think that's the pronounced that name. Not technically, I know he's been in some films, but more of a TV show actor, as in Supernatural, than films. But I thought I'd put him on there because I do have a crush on him, and he's an actor. There you go. Actresses wise, I have a crush on, again, these are quite obvious, but like Natalie Dormer, Natalie Portman, Emma Stone, Emma Watson, Scarlett Johansson, and Jennifer Lawrence. There you go. Quick as I could possibly make it. Favourite movie villain is question number 14, and again this depends on what it means, because if you mean actual favourite villain, then it's probably Loki by Tom Hiddleston, closely followed by Magneto, both Michael Fassbender's and Ian McKellen's version, and Disney's Ursula, played by Pat Carroll, which I think are just fantastic villains. I just actually enjoy watching them on screen, and I can actually associate with them a bit, and I sympathise them with it as well behind what they do. I don't condone it, but I sympathise with it. However, if you actually think, it's actually talking about like the best on-screen villain, hands down Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight Rises. I know that's like a really sort of a really stereotypical answer to that question. I know a lot of people probably give that answer, but I just think he was phenomenal. So it depends how you want me to go with that question. Question number 15 is what movie surprised you the most? Again, I've looked into this two ways. I guess I'm really over-analysing these questions, but hey, I love films and I love talking about them, and yes, so I'm just more excuses to name more films basically. But what movie surprised you the most? And so, as in like how much I enjoyed it, probably Kingsman. I knew like I was going to like the film, but I didn't come out thinking I would like it that much, and it's probably now up there on like my favourites list, which I didn't think it would be when I was going to see it, so that was really pleasantly surprising. But if it means surprising as in like twists and turns and thrillers and that kind of thing, then probably Gone Girl, Angels and Demons, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Purely because before I'd seen those films, I had never read the books, and so I had no idea where they were going, which is quite rare for me when I'm watching a film or any sort of, or reading a book or a play or stuff, because I feel like stuff's so overdone now that you can kind of begin to predict it, even if it's, I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but I can normally have some inkling of where it's going to go. Things are quite predictable. Those three I had no idea. I did not see the endings coming at all, so they genuinely surprised me, and I really enjoyed that. Question number 16 is, if you could only keep one film, what would it be? And my answer will be no surprise here, but Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I just have too many memories attached to that film to ever get rid of it. Movie recommendations and for whom is question 17, and I'm just going to say there are far too many films for me to pick one to recommend to a specific person. So basically any films I've listed here, if you're watching this and you haven't seen any of the films listed, or some of the films you haven't seen, pick one, watch it, see what happens. There you go, that's my recommendation. You're about to die and you can only watch one more movie, what would it be? Beauty and the Beast, a Disney animation. Question number 21. A film with a very good soundtrack. There's so many films with so many good soundtracks. Right. I would say that Guardians of the Galaxy has a fantastic soundtrack for just sort of the way it goes with the film. It almost makes the film, if that makes sense. I would also argue that Shrek has a fantastic soundtrack just because it's so iconic now to Shrek. All the songs that have ever been on a Shrek soundtrack are now known as the song from Shrek, especially All Star by Smash Mouth. That is always going to be known as the song from Shrek. So yeah, I've definitely put Shrek in there. Though I also think Disney's Tarzan, because it's like Phil Collins, and it was so good, and I loved the fact that they actually had a Disney soundtrack that wasn't sort of sung by the characters. It was actually like a backing track, like a soundtrack, not like a musical. So I thought that was really cool. I also love the soundtracks like Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I just think that's a fantastic soundtrack, especially Heroes by David Bowie when they're driving through the tunnel. That is now on my bucket list to recreate that scene in real life. I just think there's so, I love so many different soundtracks, so many different reasons. Sorry if that didn't really answer that question. And finally, it's number 22, finally got there, sorry about how long this has been. What's the first movie you remember watching in theatres? Right, well, I have been told that the first film I've ever saw at the cinema was the first Toy Story film, and I saw it in a cinema in Butlins apparently, but I was less than 1 year old and actually remember seeing that, so I don't think that counts. However, the first time I remember actually watching the cinema, as in like the anticipation for it to come out and then sitting there watching the trailers and not waiting for the film with like sweets and chocolates and popcorn drinks and things like that, was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. But that film came out when I was 8, and I'm pretty sure that I saw quite a considerable amount of films between like being born and 8, especially knowing how much my family loves both films and the cinema. So, but it's the first one I can actually remember watching. So that's the one I'm going to answer with. But yeah, thank you if you made it the whole way to the end of this video. I'm very impressed. And thank you for coming along on this journey. If anyone else watching this wants to have a go at making this tag, and then leave it in the link below, leave the link in the description below, and I will go and watch it, because I would love to see everyone else's answers to this. But otherwise, yeah, I hope that everyone's having a nice time, and I will see you soon, hopefully with a review next week.